Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to address a big question, and that question is, what is the meaning of life? Okay, so this is a big question. It's not an easy one to answer, but we're in the middle of a global pandemic at the moment. There's a lot going on right now to prompt us to ask big questions. Not only, tragically, the 2 million people who have lost their lives so far, but also the extraordinary measures we're each taking to preserve life, such as staying at home for months on end. And I've been working in this bedroom for almost a year, and that's nothing compared to the sacrifices that many, many other people are making. And for lots of us, all this kind of tragedy and change has reminded us how valuable life truly is, how significant it is, the lengths it's worth going to preserve life. And there's another effect too, which is that people are reappraising things a bit, I think, asking, do we want to go back to the way of life we had before? And maybe what could we do better with our lives or different? And what does better mean anyway? So many of us have had a new resolve to lead lives that are purposeful and meaningful and somehow significant. We want to live lives that count for something, and maybe even now we're sketching out what that life might look like once the pandemic is over. So before we go any further, I want to be completely open and say what I think it is that makes life meaningful. And that's that I believe God exists and that God gives us a basis for saying that life is meaningful, that life is valuable, worth preserving, and ultimately significant. And that's because life is valuable because we are made and known by a God who loves us. Life has a purpose, and our lives have a purpose because we're each part of a bigger plan that God has for the universe. And life is significant because it is eternal, and the choices we make in this life echo in some way into eternity. And I think those things all allow us to say that life is meaningful. Um, but at the same time, I also believe that if we deny those claims, that we deny the claim that God exists and that life is eternal, then we can't easily say how or why life is valuable, purposeful, or ultimately significant. And that's quite a strong claim to make, I know, but it's not just my view. In fact, the idea that without God, the meaning of life is difficult or even impossible to establish is probably the mainstream view among the most thoughtful atheists. And to show you what I mean, I wanted to share with you a passage from Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche. He was an atheist so committed to his cause that he once declared himself to be the Antichrist, and which I think is probably a bit of hubris. But the one thing that people do know to know about Nietzsche is the quote that God is dead. And here's the thing about that, though. When Nietzsche said God is dead, he wasn't actually, as it sounds, attacking people who believe in God. He was attacking atheists, atheists like him, but atheists who, unlike him, as he saw it, haven't thought through the implications of their rejection of God. So I was going to read you the passage in which that quote comes, and hopefully it'll help to explain what I mean a bit more. And so let me read that now. And he says, where is God? I shall tell you. We have killed him, you and I. We are all his murderers. But how have we done this? How were we able to drink up the sea? Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the entire horizon? What did we do when we unchained this earth from its sun? Where is it moving now? Where are we moving now? Away from all suns? Are we not endlessly falling? Backwards, sideways, forwards, in all directions? Is there any up or down left? Are we not straying as though through an infinite nothing? Do we not feel the breath of empty space? Has it not become colder? Is more and more night not coming on all the time? God is dead, and we have killed him. How shall we, the murderers of all murderers, comfort ourselves? And behind the rhetoric of that passage, Nietzsche's thought is quite simple, which is that losing God is a huge thing, as big as he puts it, drinking the entire sea. And it's a thing with immense consequences, he suggests. And the biggest casualty of the death of God is, uh, in the view expressed there, is deeper meaning and significance in our lives. As he puts it, it's like the horizon has been wiped away, We no longer have any way to orientate ourselves. Without God, no way to tell up from down or even right from wrong. And we don't have any light, any comfort, and ultimately any deeper meaning. And this is not an unusual view. It is, as I suggested, the dominant view among the most thoughtful atheists. And also, Richard Dawkins has faced this point too. He says that, I'll quote him very briefly, there is no, at bottom no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but pointless indifference. We are machines for propagating DNA. Now, in quoting these, I'm not saying that if you're an atheist, then you lead a life that is meaningless, insignificant, or valueless. Actually, I'm saying something like the opposite, that unlike what these atheists say, that actually everyone's lives are meaningful, significant, and valuable. This is something we instinctively know, a belief that we all share, and that this is because there is a God. But I also think that if we try to impose meaning on a world without God, then borrowing Nietzsche's language, it's about as futile as attempting to draw our own horizon on the world, and about as useful as a guide too. In fact, I also think the reality of meaning and value and significance in all our lives, the reality of those things, so things we sense all the time, are one of the best reasons we have for believing in God. But of course, none of this proves itself that God exists. And it's possible, maybe it's possible, that there is no God, and that if so, life is meaningless. But I think there's a better explanation, one that does justice to our deepest feelings that life is meaningful and helps us to work out the meaning of our own lives, and that's that God exists. Of course, in the end, you must and will decide this for yourself. But I think that Nietzsche was definitely right about one thing, that this is a choice that has implications. It's not some idle choice. It's something that has significance itself. And I'm sure that's something we can all agree on. So thank you very much for listening.